How would you feel if the only thing we knew about presidential candidates was their stance on issues? No information on party, name, gender, race, or religious beliefs, or lack thereof. You should look up the philosophical thought experiment called The Veil of Ignorance. It poses a similar question. You have to look at all political, economic, and social ideas without knowing what your socio-economic position is. Pasting the reply from You Can Farm Good Woman to give a more accurate description of the experiment, popularly attributed to American philosopher John Rawls. You have to look at all that and then design a society that you would want to live in. But the catch is, you don't know what your position will be. You might be at the bottom, you might be at the top. The idea is that you'll try to make the society as equitable as possible. Kind of like the kid who cuts the cake doesn't get to pick his slice. I don't think it would work. It's very easy for a politician to take a verbal stance on an issue. It's different to see their actual history and actions. Politicians would just sound as vague and non-committal as possible, which they usually already do, and we wouldn't be able to hold them accountable if they were being dishonest about their actual platforms and beliefs. It would just cause more problems, if anything. Would it be based on their actual stance, or what they claim is their stance? It should be like the blind auditions on The Voice. They'd lie even more to get elected than they do now. God, this is such a Reddit post. The best pollster wins. Not that that changes much, but without anything to hold them accountable to their statements and commitments, it's just a mess. How would you feel if AskReddit banned leading questions that begin with "How would you feel?" I'd be happy if the early primaries simply involved a basic civics contests and the person who scores the lowest is automatically disqualified from running. I mean, for one, it isn't plausible, but also the ability to be social is important for a leader. I think we need to know more than just the policies. I want to know if they're just saying things for votes or if there's proof of them actually trying to do what they say. It's all very well saying war is bad, but are you actually protesting against wars, or just saying it's bad, as an example? That would be useless. Just words on a page. Everyone would jockey to write the most pandering words on a page. You need to know who those words are coming from. Their background. You need to see how genuine they are when they make those promises out loud. Lamaui had all the supportive comments. It's really one of the dumbest idea I've ever read about elections. You realize a person can lie about their stance, right? Okay, so now you have 400 candidates who all say their stance is whatever is highest polling or a slight variation thereof. Some might be true believers in those reforms, but most just take those positions cynically to get elected. How can you tell who's who? No, because things like leadership ability and integrity matter. I'd prefer AI politicians, to be fair. Anyone can fake a stance. Trump would have won even harder. The only reason why some of his party does not like him is because he's AD. If this fact was hidden from them, all anyone would see is lower taxes and increased border security. Those are both things that are very popular in America. I'd definitely not vote for any candidate promising free stuff, that's for sure. In this hypothetical, should I assume that we can read the candidates' minds and know their actual positions? If not, then the responses would be your typical empty promises or dodging of questions. That's going to interfere with my wokeness, though. Dumb. You need all of it to know if you are being lied to or not, and even then, most people can't tell the difference. This would be the greatest thing to happen to American politics. identity politics is cringe. It would make it a lot easier for politicians to manipulate the general public. No way, that's an awful idea. You need accountability and resumes. In the UK during the time of the recent general election, there was a site sort of like this principle that gave you the initiative to vote based upon policy rather than party. It was basically just a question on a certain issue such as climate change, and then would show various options for solutions, ideas, and by the end would show you the party whose policies you sided with the most. A good idea in my opinion, as many simply write off their preferred party's rival without looking at the possible positives of their ideas, and could also help those who are disengaged from politics due to the drama of it all to actually see the facts and see what they side with the most. Anything that lets us branch out from the two-party system would be an improvement. Bad in practice. Unfortunately, it would necessarily leave out important info about the track record, reliability, competence, and honesty of the candidates. Can't judge competence without knowing what positions and qualifications a candidate has held in their track record while doing so. Can't judge track record without basically knowing who the candidate is. Similarly, honesty. Did the candidate lie about their presented info or lie in the past? Have they reliably held those beliefs, or are they liable to flip and disenfranchise their voters? How would voters hold politicians accountable across elections? We need more than complete transparency from our candidates, not less. What we have now makes it relatively easy for candidates to keep hidden what was already hidden. We need info that drags everything relevant into the light, primarily financials, to avoid political party bias. Treating politics like football, we need election reform in the form of another counting system like ranked pair voting that would help break up the two-party system, not to just ignore political affiliations at the ballot box, both because then we wouldn't know if a political group packed a ballot, and because collectively organizing does do good things. We just need to be more fluid about shifting between those organizations as they and we change. Edit. Arguably, I think most of our problems in the US come from one side of the aisle publicly playing politics like a sport while privately selling out everything they can get their hands on, and the other side publicly espousing great things while failing to follow through in the name of moderation, i.e. actually being more like the other party than they want their voters to believe while privately selling out significantly less. This isn't a both sides problem, but just in a lot of the wrong places. Stupid idea. Politics is more than a list of policy proposals. In an electoral system where we're directly electing representatives, we deserve to know who the candidates are. Scandals matter. Issues other than the curated list of policy positions matter. Personality and experience matter. Lots of things matter. Nah, we need their name. What if a Google search reveals they're a ventriloquist or taxidermist? Can't have that. I prefer the opposite. Plaster the names of their donors on their clothes like NASCAR drivers do with their sponsors. Nothing would change for me. That's what I already vote on. Orchestras started doing blind auditions, which suddenly let a lot more women in. So I liked the thought a lot, but in the case of elections, I think we need to hear the candidates to catch their lies and figure out their motives. What if we abolished political parties altogether? Yeah, but the politicians could just lie about their beliefs, like Hillary pretending to like black people. We would be governed by AI. I still wouldn't vote for Mike Bloomberg. Honesty on what they actually support would be an issue. That is why background is important. I would support anybody who puts up Andrew Yang's policy proposals, even the gormless nothing burgers currently running. strongly dislike this idea. I view character and integrity as equally important to policy positions, and without knowing anything else about the candidate, I can't evaluate these traits. Good. I would absolutely love this. This would be great. It's been proven many times that when you swap the names of presidents who proposed certain policies, that people will support that policy when they think it was their party's policy, but it turns out it was their opposing party's policy. It reveals how easy it is to be biased and just check the box of your party and go with anything they propose and be opposed to anything the other side proposes. Donald Trump would still be president. All the things you named in the title are factors that are detrimental to the legitimacy of the process of elections. Meaning I'd rather not know the candidate's party, etc. An electoral system, a lottery, basically eliminates all these factors and has been proven to have serious potential if done correctly. I recommend you look it up and judge for yourself. The ancient Greeks, who we now call founders of democracy, mainly worked with this system, and not with elections. Elections weren't held until the 18th–19th century. Until then democracies, which were admittedly sparse, used some sort of electoral system. Look up the system of medieval Venice, for example. There would be a lot more Trump supporters. I feel that's how it should be, and that is the only way we should choose candidates, based off their qualifications. And if we agree with their views, of course we'd need to be able to check their voting records if they had held office. Unfortunately, I doubt this would ever happen. I think our government would get quality leaders, if not at the federal level, at least the state level. I mean, it would make things more fair. How would you feel? To answer your question, I feel like it's a stupid idea that would never work. People need to know what they are voting for. Pretty bad. I judge presidents more by their character, values and principles than by their stance on issues. People would realize Orange Man is not that bad. A political version of The Voice? The platform, perhaps. Why? I think most people would end up supporting the same candidate. This question seems to imply that people routinely choose to support candidates just for their name or gender or race, which I don't believe is necessarily true. There are deeper reasons. I believe it would be good to have America's first gay president, but not because I think being gay would make someone a better president, but because I can recognize how such an accomplishment would positively impact LGBT youth. I think if this was the actual way of running for presidency, we'd have a lot better presidents. But on the flip side, maybe way worse, cause we can't judge them for their past actions, so anybody can say anything and just flip after the election. One could definitely argue that the public has the right to know everything about the people who are up for election, but it really depends if you see elections as voting for a person or voting for policies. No, I'd like to know about their personality, temperament. More often than not, their policies are an ideal that they struggle to achieve in their administration, if at all. If and when they fail to implement something they promised on the campaign, knowing something about the kind of person they are will go a long way towards knowing what to expect from them going forward. Or looks. Looks play a big role too. That would be amazing. I always thought something similar applied to college applications. No names, or any other personal information. No genders. No race. Just grades, test scores, and an essay. Honestly, I would settle for taking party affiliations off of ballots. Sure, people would know who the candidates were for the big elections, but I would bet 90% or more couldn't tell you anything about local elections, state representatives, or even senators. They just vote the party line and call it a day. I would feel fine. Thanks for asking. How are you? Not their stance, their actual voting records. You should look at how I profit from my AI. The Masked Singer version of presidential election, I'll pay to see it. I really like this idea. That's how I see it in the first place. Do people really change their opinions based on those? Religious beliefs will go in stance on issues, though. What about their size? Too often people vote based on future promises. Not on past performance. I vote based on historical political effectiveness and honesty of the candidate and the party, though. No use in promising something they quietly don't deliver. Voting history would also be something I want to know too. This is why I rate Bernie higher than someone like Yang. If Bernie voted for 80% of the things I would approve of over several decades, I trust him. Yang hasn't got any history to audit. So you're taking a gamble. Hoops voted for Hitler. Lol, then the clear choice for me remains the same. Only Bernie resonates with me regarding the issues. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to hear more of the best posts.